and welcome to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. Leading Entrepreneurs of the World is one of the most comprehensive global entrepreneurial platforms and features entrepreneurs, founders, and business leaders presenting on cutting-edge topics and the latest industry developments. Our goal is to provide the global business and entrepreneurial communities with a window into the minds of those who are shaping the future of the world. Today, we're very happy to welcome leading global entrepreneur, marketer, and PR advisor, Ronjini Joshua. Ronjini Joshua is the founder and CEO of the Silver Telegram. At the Silver Telegram, Ronjini and her team transform public relations to give clients integrated communications and build for them custom campaigns that meet their specific needs with results that can be measured. The mission of the Silver Telegram team is to empower technology and lifestyle brands with the brand relations, marketing, social media knowledge, and support that they need to elevate their brand profile and get recognized as industry leaders, bridging the gap between brands and the media. Ronjini, it's great to have you here today with us. Very excited to go through this. Looking forward to hearing more about PR, marketing, something near and dear to my heart in this new digital era. And I think you also do some of your own podcasting as well.
I do. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, we do a podcast. It's part of this presentation. So absolutely, it's an important component of being in the new digital era, I think.
Absolutely. All right. Well, again, we're excited to have you here, and I am going to let you take over and take us all through your presentation.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. And now I'm thinking my mission is a little long after hearing it back to me. So we're going to have to update, always changing, always refreshing and updating things. So it's always nice to have an introduction, hear what I've been doing lately.
Understandable.
So yeah, I just want to give a quick background, a little bit more on myself to get started. So I am Ronjini Joshua, the CEO and founder of the Silver Telegram. But more than that, I am a technology PR expert, lover, professional, I guess. I've been doing that for the last 18 years. I did that right out of college. I majored in journalism. So it's something that has been part of my career my whole life. And 10 years ago, I started the PR agency, the Silver Telegram, where we focused on PR for startups. And we actually ended up doing a lot of crowdfunding. And I tell you this because it will relate to how we do work in the future of the Silver Telegram. I also am the host of the PR Playbook podcast, which is a DIY PR podcast, how you can kind of get started and do PR yourself and how to kind of take those little baby steps before you have the money to hand it over to somebody else. And the Green Room podcast, which is a podcast about the cannabis industry and the growing cannabis industry and the innovators in that space. So it's a little bit different as well. We're jumping on and working with the cannabis industry. So that's been pretty fun as well. I've written a couple of books. You can find them on Amazon about PR, very similar themes, strategy, things like that. Spoken at several conferences. This is an honor to come and speak to you guys as well. Our agency is primarily focused in media relations and storytelling. So what we do is kind of find angles of what's working and what people are interested in and pitch those stories as it relates to our technology clients, what they're doing, what kind of innovations they're bringing to the world, and kind of really making sure that they are looked at as experts and thought leaders. And that's kind of a really, really big thing in today's media landscape is finding out who the experts are, because people are always looking for advice and they're always looking for leadership. So that's really a core component of how we put our programs together, is leading from expertise and education. Also in my personal life, I'm a runner, I play tennis, I'm a mom, I do a lot of other things as well. I don't know how I have time for it all, but it all kind of works out at the end of the day. Right now I'm nursing a sick dog back to health. He had surgery yesterday. So we're taking care of our puppy. So there's life in the midst of entrepreneurship as well. So I wanted to kind of start this conversation off with just a quick overview of public relations and what it is. It's confusing to some people, and it really gets brought up in the communications marketing mix a lot, but what exactly is it? So, it goes back to Aristotle and Plato, who I have here. They're basically the founders of public relations and rhetoric and public opinion and public perception. And that's really what public relations is. It's a strategic communication process between you and your target audiences. And so Ivy Lee here in the middle, he is one of the founders of modern public relations, they call it. But he was really the PR publicist of the Rockefeller family. And they weren't looked at very well upon their peers. And his job was to put out information that would help elevate their profile. And so that's why a lot of people call him a founder of public relations. Edward Bernays is kind of industry-wide. As PR people, we think of him more, I think, because he wrote the book. He literally wrote the book on public perception and public opinion and shaping those values. And so it's kind of a combination of these three folks and these three really times in the world where public relations really started to kind of solidify and become a little bit more modern. Ivy Lee kind of wrote the first press release and got it into the New York Times. And so we kind of have a little conflict of who actually created it, but that's really what it is. It's really shaping public perception. So any tactics or things around shaping public perception, getting out education, getting out opinion and voice is really what public relations deals with. It's not the same as advertising, where you'll see that's an advertising. You're spending money, you're creating images, you're really doing more of a sales pitch when you're looking at advertising and marketing. Again, we're going to kind of talk about the differences there, but that is really more of a selling platform. This is a really perception and opinion. So PR, marketing, and digital media, and where they lie in the landscape. Again, PR, shaping public opinion, perception, knowledge. You have spokespeople talking. You're looking at educational content and material that's credible and validated. When you're looking at marketing, you're looking at promoting, selling products, email marketing, brochures, signage, a number of things there. And then digital media is really anything that kind of delivers that. So digital media is just really, it became a thing because of social media and all the social media platforms that have come out. But really what it is just the delivery platform. Social media is like a type of marketing. It can be a type of PR. So I think that's kind of a good way to lay it out and to understand that digital media is really just a delivery platform of how we're going to be getting information out to people, and what's important, what's not. It depends on what platform they're reading it on. So that's an important thing to understand. Oops, sorry about that. So the challenges of communication today in the PR world, it's not as easy as picking up the phone. I was going to pull up this funny graphic of like what people think we do and what we actually do. And I kind of strayed away from it, but you might get a perception of what you think we do from something like Sex and the City, where Samantha, she's a publicist, she's out having lunch, doing all kinds of lavish, glamorous things. But in reality, we're kind of the people in the background that are creating strategy. If you think about, I don't know if you think about the show Veep, where the VP has writers and things like that, creating their speech strategies and things like that. We're more on that side. We're building strategies to shape opinion. We're writing the content, and we're delivering that information. So today it's become harder than ever, especially with the climate of what's going on in the world. I mean, I know people don't want to talk about it anymore, but also you can't ignore it because it's really just taken over the way everyone is communicating and working. I mean, we're here on a webinar. So it's busier than ever. And that means everyone is busier than ever. That means the media, the reporters and journalists. That means that businesses are trying to overcome their challenges. And right now I'm in the tech space. There's a huge chip shortage. And so that's a big problem for a lot of the companies that we work with. And then, and there's not a lot of time to kind of navigate all these different conflicting emotions. So it's very confusing. It becomes really confusing. And roles have been really shaken up. The social conflict in the United States That's been a very big issue. And I know that's kind of gone across globally as well. So, all these things have become a very loud force in our life. And so we have to kind of accommodate, even when we're doing brand positioning, we need to understand these dynamics of the landscape because the media is reflecting that as well. So obviously, there's a lot of reasons why this is happening. There's distractions at home. There's distractions at work. There's distractions in the world. There's distrust of the media. And that is the thing that affects us the most. There is a deep distrust of the media. We've even found a lot of media and journalists becoming independent and writing independently on new platforms like Medium and other things like that. And beyond anything else, it's unprecedented times. We are going through a revolution, some kind of shift, and we're still not sure when it's going to be over because we're kind of dealing with this every day. So it's just really, again, very important when you're dealing with your publics, your target audiences, to understand that all of these different things are affecting how we need to communicate with them. So, PR and marketing are facing some really, really specific challenges. And it kind of goes back to the ones that I was talking about before, it being loud, confusing, it's a pandemic, it's all these things. We're kind of competing with all of these things all at one time. And so what we've done as a PR agency is really had to shift our mindset of how is it that people work and function in today's landscape. And it's really also pulling in that channel of marketing, because it's a little bit different than what we do in public relations and just communicating content. The marketing piece of the sales piece is also really important because it also affects how people are buying products or engaging into partnerships or a number of things, selling product, right? So we've had to kind of shift our dynamic of how we come up with strategic PR plans. And I express this to our team quite often. Is like, hey, let's always make sure that we're thinking bigger than just what we think is traditional PR, which is, our responsibility is reputation management and communicating our message to the audience and really delivering our key goals. But I think now it's become a little bit more of a two-way conversation. So in this shifting climate, we really have to understand, what does your audience care about now? And I think a lot of brands and businesses are shifting to listening to their audience so that they could do better business. And that's really kind of the same thing we have to do in public relations, marketing, social media, all these things. How do we fit into their life and why is it important? And so from a PR standpoint, we team up with businesses to find out exactly what we can say to kind of have a genuine, authentic conversation with the audience so that they can deliver the best possible outcomes for both, really, for the potential customer, because you're hopefully delivering a value to them, and for the business, because you need to have sales and you want to have a business. So these three questions are very, very important in identifying your target audience, what they need, what they want, and then also how are you going to communicate with them and identify with them. So this kind of plays into really specifically how we create new strategies, how we're trying to work with people. So our suggestions and recommendations are really in this presentation. It is a big, big mistake to think small or fall into line with what other people are saying, because that is just not a way right now that you can stand out. It is, again, very loud market. A lot of businesses are struggling to stay just alive at this point. But now everybody is online. Everybody's online on their phone. A device is definitely necessary, especially through the deep part of the pandemic where we weren't going out. I mean, everybody was looking at their social media feeds. I'm on email all day. I'm on Slack all day. We're on these different platforms. We're on Zoom. It's just, it's become very exhausting, I think, for everyone. So I think it's really important to, when you're creating a strategy to communicate, you want to think big. One, you want to be authentic, but you want to think big. What is a big move that you can make? What is a bold statement you can make? And we work with our executives quite often to say, we can't just say the same thing everyone else is saying. You've got to say something different. You've got to be able to stand out and really position yourself as a leader. I know a lot of leaders that we work with that are in startups, they are just getting started up. They're very excited about their innovation, but they have trouble kind of taking that bold leap because they're concerned. But I think at this stage, and where we are today, if you're not taking a bold leap, you're not standing for anything. And I think that's really important to customers, partners, collaborators in today's media landscape. Do something unexpected. I always love the clients that want to try something fun and out of the box, or however you want to call it, something creative, where we can really try something, knowing that you might fail at doing it, but at least it's different. At least you're not doing the same old tactics, because it's just, again, not going to work. We have to create noise in new ways, and really get uncomfortable is really what it is. And then at the end of the day, I am a very traditional PR house. So we do a lot of traditional PR tactics. So we really want to stick to our mission and values. It's just, we're just taking it up a notch and kicking it up the volume, so that, we're heard a lot better than we would be if we were doing the same old thing. So sticking to mission and values is very important, because at the end of the day, you always want to map back to, your business strategy and your goals. And you want your audiences to see that there is some kind of consistency in what you're doing. So we've crafted this kind of like new school of public relations. It's not by far like brand new, but it really means having an integrated communications approach. You can't any longer look at public relations, marketing, social media, and business development as 4 different buckets. They're really something that rely on each other. It's like the human body, you need all these different parts to make the whole machine work. And so because of this, it's really important to consider that when you're creating your strategy. Map your messages, and messaging is so important. We have a ton of guides on messaging on our website, but messaging is so important to weave through all of these different things. And if you've ever heard the marketing rule of like, you have to hear something 7 times to actually buy into those value propositions, it's the same theme. You have to relay that information in public relations, in the marketing, in the sales channel, in the business development. So make sure that your messaging for your business is the same, essentially the same, with, a little bit of a twist in each of those different channels. Incorporate a bold, authentic voice. Again, this goes back to really taking a stand for something and then also identifying with the target audience. So it's kind of a combination of those. Be seen and heard in multiple formats. And this is actually one that I really fully subscribe to and I really love, is that this is the uncomfortable part. A lot of people are comfortable sending emails, and that's fantastic. Written word, this is age old, thousands of years, but just recently, I've seen some really cool innovators in different spaces take up things like TikTok and things like that. Now, I'm not going to lie, social media is a headache and it's kind of a pain, but if you don't try it, you don't know where it can get you. And I think, I've incorporated podcasts into our communication strategies. We use YouTube, we use Instagram. We're working on the TikTok part. But you have to be able to kind of expand your boundaries and go outside your comfort zone. So try multiple formats. I don't love hearing myself, so I don't often listen to the podcasts, but I script it out. I make sure I said what I want to do, and then I have the editor clean it up for me and manage that. And so you don't, the uncomfortable parts of being on video or being on voice, you'll get over that after a few tries. And I think trying something new is better than not trying anything at all. If you want different results, you've got to try different things. And that really resonates in public relations, especially today. And then collaboration. So collaborating, this is kind of where the influencer relations comes in. And so we are now collaborating not just with media and journalists, because now they're far and wide all over the place. There are a lot of freelancers, but we're also collaborating with influencers, people that are other experts in the industry. So think about collaborating with those people, maybe swapping a podcast here or there, or maybe even, being a guest blogger on a website of a kind of, another business that has some kind of serendipity to yours. So there's a lot of ways we can kind of expand our networks. And because we have to do it digitally, this is kind of the time to collaborate and really try to help each other out, I think, as entrepreneurs, leaders, and experts. And then create an interactive approach and a call to action. I always like embed in people that a call to action is so important. But a lot of people forget that little piece. You'll send an email and there's no call to action at the end of it. I mean, that from a media standpoint, we always have to tell the media, we want an interview, or we'd like to do an article for you, or, we'd like to be featured as a speaker. So you really have to tell people what you want. And I know it seems almost elementary sometimes, but having that specific call to action, just being simple and plain about asking, is one of the most valuable things that you can do to get results. Because if that simple ask is not there, then you're not going to get the result that you want. So that applies to marketing, sales, and public relations equally. And the cycle will continue. I think the biggest thing is to make sure that you're always trying something new. You're always rethinking. Now, in our practice, we do quarterly reviews of our programs and make sure that we're refreshing the program. If something is not working, then we change it. We don't have to answer to anybody. We want to get results. So the point of the goal of the plan is always to get results and try the things that are working or that will continue to work, and eliminate the things that aren't going to work anymore. And I think that's one of the biggest things in public relations. You really have to revisit your strategy on a regular basis. And equally in marketing, we do a lot of marketing activities here, email marketing, LinkedIn marketing, things like that. And all of those things have to be revisited. I know a lot of times we even do monthly reviews of what's working, what's not working, so we can shift fast. So in this noisy landscape, you have to really be able to shift gears quickly, make adjustments, and be creative. And if I haven't, those are kind of like my main tenets right now in public relations, is trying to be nimble, because the question is out there: is there a public relations future, and what does that look like? Is public relations dead? Is the press release dead? And I don't think yes is the answer. I think the answer is that we are evolving to really communicate in new and different ways. And whatever ways you guys choose to communicate, it really has to hit authentically and genuinely to your audience. And your programs need to be the same. They need to reflect that you can adapt, you are on trend, and you can be creative and reach people in different ways. So that's all. I kind of wanted to just quickly touch on what's going on in the media and PR today, how we're shifting to create more strategic and creative plans, and how you can do the same thing by making these like little steps towards really identifying the right message and reaching out to your target audiences. So I hope you'll stay in touch. You can scan this QR code. It takes you to my LinkedIn page, and hopefully we can connect.
Awesome. Thanks so much. That's so many thoughts relative to, I come from an advertising side of the marketing world. So I'm usually, hiring people to do PR from that aspect, but
Absolutely.
We really live in an interesting time. And a couple of your points when you were talking about with the creating story and interest and different things on when you're building a company that way, on the one side, advertising is, hey, I create a need for a product, right? And so like, this makes your life easier. You want this,
Yeah.
But from a PR side, how do you think companies should look at going forward, developing kind of that narrative that makes people care about the company? I see a lot of companies now, oh, we can't do as much in person, or we can't, okay, so we're going to throw up a business page on LinkedIn, right? And we're going
Yeah.
to, or a Facebook page, and then we're just going to like grab a bunch of stock images from wherever, throw them up there, get some pithy business quotes, and then say, hey, hire us, use us, work with us, and then it's going to be great, But I mean, even from an advertising sense, I can't sell a product like that, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm sure you see that all the time. What would you recommend for companies to refine that better?
I think, I know we all want to go for quantity, but going for quality is really important. And we use this strategy when we're dealing with the media. There are some campaigns that can go out to everybody, but really, if you want to get a good result, you're doing one-on-one contact and you're really identifying that the person. So it's a lot of like detectiving. We become like detectives, and you really want to identify that you've done a little bit of homework, you care about the person, you can relate to them. And I think that's what business communication has become, that we have now can relate to each other more. We've all been through this crazy situation. I'm talking to people, they're like, oh, I understand, your kids are at home, or you have to pick up something, or you have to make sure they're online for their class. And I've seen a lot more compassion. But also it's just, people still want to get things done. And so just a little bit of that goes a long way of really just identifying like, hey, I'm human, you're human, let's do this together. And take a little bit more time. Just take, an extra 10% of time putting these things together and really thinking through from the end user perspective, right? Like I try to think, a lot of times when we do email marketing campaigns, I always say like, would I open that email? Well, if I wouldn't open the email, that other person's not going to open it either. So I keep trying and refining my messages that way. If I don't want to read this thing, then why would somebody else? And I think that's kind of the prescription that I would give to people is, if you don't want to look at the website, if that's not exciting to you, what would make it exciting? And what could you do differently? Could a video make that better? Or could you doing something funny? Like comedy and humor is a great way to like engage and get people's attention. And I don't think it's used enough in business because everyone's so serious. So it could be a way for you to kind of generate better and more exciting relationships.
Yeah, that's a great point. And why do you think there's a hesitancy with utilizing some different things like comedy? So, we have both been around a lot of corporate identities, companies, stuff like that. And a lot of them get this idea where it's like, we want people to think that we are, in some major city at the top of a skyscraper, we're like 200 desks of hardworking people that, and so we want to portray this very, the word is always like professionalism, and so what I feel like, to me, and again, I'm not necessarily PR, I'm more advertising marketing, but even when you're talking about, would I open that email, I get thousands of emails that go directly into junk because I'm like, I'm not impressed. I don't care. Like, why do I care about your company? And where do you feel like maybe some of that hesitancy comes from with PR and using those techniques to kind of draw attention?
I think it's just everyone's in a hurry. Like we're not paying enough careful attention to what we're doing sometimes. And I also, I don't want to get into a psychological conversation, but I do think everyone's psychology is different. Like their priorities are different. And sometimes that's what it is. It's like, maybe it's the marketing person or the advertising or the PR person who's not feeling connected to their company that they work for. So that's another problem we're having, right? Like internally inside of your business, is everyone feeling connected? I have that problem too. I have to we communicate a lot on Slack. And so you're not getting the face-to-face interaction that you used to with your colleagues. And so it's really hard to feel really connected to that mission and goal virtually. So I think that's another problem. And people want to do everything like yesterday, right? Like I'm always getting things from people saying, oh, can we do this? And we have to do it tomorrow. Okay, great. I have no time So I have to slap something together. It's not going to be my best work.
Yeah.
So I think it's paying attention to detail, giving ourselves a little bit of time, which I know is very hard. I'm like the wrong person to say that. And really understanding that people have to feel connected, and even the people who are creating those connections, like the marketing person or whoever. And yeah, I think it's just, we're all very distracted.
Yeah. No, those are great points. And I never really thought about that connectedness between the teams. I've worked previously in marketing departments where, for larger companies, where you felt like you had no input from anybody else, and so you're creating and you're outputting, and then you have like your hierarchy that shoots everything down, and you're like, what the heck?
I'm just alone in this.
What
You're
am I
just
doing?
alone in
Yeah. So that's a fantastic point, and one that I think companies should learn to really make sure that there's some interconnectedness, so that that goes back to having a vision as well, and making sure everybody understands what's going on.
And I think I hate this because I feel like old when I say this, but like millennials, and the Z generation, but this new generation of people are like really looking for that connection more than they're actually like. I feel like my generation is like the hustle mentality, hustle generation, like get stuff done, like let's go, let's get it done at all costs. And then you see this new wave of people that are really more cognizant of work-life balance and like, and how they feel at work. It's a lot about emotion and feeling. And for me and my generation, it was just professional. We're just leave home at home, like works at work, get stuff done, go home and do your night thing, and then come back to work tomorrow. And it's very, very separated. And now they're very much commingling, especially in entrepreneurship. You cannot detach from your business when you're an entrepreneur. It's impossible. But yeah, everything's kind of commingling. And I think the new generation is kind of demanding this emotional connection with the businesses. And I do see a lot more large companies taking corporate social responsibility. They're doing a lot more, yoga at work, or they have plans. Like, I mean, we could make Google is like the perfect example of like they keeping people at work all day by giving them everything, right? Making them feel like that is their life. And so we're seeing, I think, a lot of companies go in that direction too.
Yeah. And I think that creates a powerful base then to build off of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're doing your PR, and it's probably easier for you guys to tell a story when there's a story to tell.
Yes.
So
yeah, I've made up my fair share of stories. So I know it's so funny because explaining PR to my parents has been my lifelong challenge. They have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, no, totally understand. And trying to sell products sometimes, and you keep trying to figure out what's the story of the product, why do people care, how are we going to draw them in, and they're like, well, it's just a great product, it's awesome, it's good.
Yeah, that's
great.
Yeah.
Like, I can't.
Well, and I think also, like, it's not you. I think the problem is sometimes we get overwhelmed with like trying to serve everybody. But not every product is for everybody. It's for your audience. And that audience is probably very big. But in the scale of things, it looks small, right? So that's okay. If you had 1,000 devout, loyal followers versus 1 million, those 1,000 people who would buy everything from you probably are worth a lot more money. So I think that's one perspective to take too, is really build a tribe, build a brand army almost. And some people are doing this as well. So like, build that loyal following. Don't worry about every fish in the ocean. Just go after the clownfish or whatever, find something that's going to resonate, and like, then push that needle all the way you can. And then once you've exhausted that bucket, then go to the next logical bucket, like everything has a process.
Yep. Awesome. Well, really appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely.
I do have to say before we hop off though, I love your artwork in your background as a father. That resonates with me. So
Thank you. Yeah, I at the beginning of the pandemic, I had something else. I had like regular, the
Sure.
fancier art. Now I put the priceless art up. So
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
thank you.
So Ronjini, it was so awesome to have you. Appreciate so much you sharing your insights with us. Really looking forward to seeing the impact that you continue to do down the road.
Thank you.
As we've said before, we'll be in touch about some of your presentations at conferences coming up and everything else. And we are excited about all of those things and to talk to you again soon.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a great one.